Hello everyone, welcome back to a news channel. Students, today's episode is not an easy one, but it is an important one. We are going to talk about children, social media, mental health, and a question many adults across the world are asking right now. Should governments ban social media for children below certain age? And more importantly, will such a ban actually protect children? So, this discussion has gained urgency after a tragic incident in Ghaziabad, Uttar Pradesh, where three sisters aged 12, 14, and 16 died by suicide in February 2026. Preliminary reports mentioned screen addiction and family conflict. So, whenever something this heartbreaking happens, society reacts emotionally. Parents demand action. Politicians promise solution. And often the loudest demand is ban social media. But today we will ask a deeper question. Is banning social media a real solution or just an emotional response? Okay, so let's begin with what research actually says. Across the world, scientists have studied the impact of heavy social media use on teenagers. And many large studies and meta analysis show consistent links between excessive social media use and increased anxiety, depression, self harm tendencies, body image dissatisfaction, low self esteem. And these effects are especially strong among teenage girls. Now, it's important to say this clearly that social media does not automatically cause mental illness. No, it does not. But heavy, unregulated, and algorithm driven use can worsen existing emotional stress. Okay. And most of these studies that were being done, it come from Western countries. तो ये ज़्यादातर वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज में स्टडीज हुई. India, on the other hand, does not yet have enough large scale long term research. Still, the warning signs are serious enough that we cannot ignore them. So, yes, social media can harm children, but does that automatically mean banning it is the answer? तो क्या आंसर ये है कि इसको बैन कर दिया जाए? तो इसे हम समझेंगे. ठीक है. अब देखो, आफ्टर the Ghaziabad tragedy, many people in India started pointing to Australia. ऑस्ट्रेलिया की में क्यों बात करने लगे? क्योंकि 2024 में ऑस्ट्रेलिया ने एक लॉ पास किया था. ऑस्ट्रेलिया बैन चिल्ड्रन under 16 from having accounts on major platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat, and X. And it uses mandatory age verification. It imposes fines of up to 50 million Australian dollars on companies. And it came into force in December 2025. So basically, Australia became the first country to fully ban social media for children under 16. अंडर 16 की जो एज के बच्चे हैं वहां पर तो वो सोशल मीडिया पे अपना अकाउंट नहीं बना सकते हैं. स्पेन में अभी फरवरी में ही स्पेन के जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर है उन्होंने भी एक प्लान अनाउंस किया. तो उसके अकॉर्डिंग basically it was a plan to ban social media for children under 16 and hold tech executives criminally responsible for harmful algorithms. तो ये जो announcement थे, it sounded strong and they sound comforting, they sound like action. But history teaches us something important, students. When society faces complex social problems, it often looks for a single villain. And then it chooses a symbolic crackdown instead of a real reform. So, this is what sociologist Stanley Cohen called a moral panic. Okay? And now, why this kind of approach will not work in India? See, according to digital rights expert Apar Gupta, copying these bans in India would be disastrous. Why? Because of four main reasons. First is, see, teenagers today are often more they are often more, what you can say, tech savvy than lawmakers. तो वो टेक्निकल जो एस्पेक्ट है उसमें वो वैसे ही एक्सपर्ट है. तो बैन्स आर बेसिकली इजी टू बाईपास. तो अगर प्लेटफॉर्म अगर बैन कर भी दिया तो मेनी चिल्ड्रन विल यूज वीपीएन्स. Some will move to encrypted unmoderated platforms, and these spaces are far more dangerous with grooming है, extremism है, no safety checks are there. तो वो तो जो दूसरा जो ऑल्टरनेटिव है, दूसरा जो तरीका है, दूसरा वे है यूज करने का, वो तो और भी ज्यादा डेंजरस है. इवन वर्स, enforcing bans through ID verification could mean linking every social media account to government identity, and this will definitely create a mass surveillance system. So instead of safety, we may create greater risk. Second reason is social media is not only harmful. ये पार्ट हम हमेशा इग्नोर कर देते हैं, क्योंकि जैसे कुछ बच्चे, फॉर मेनी चिल्ड्रन सोशल मीडिया इज नॉट एंटरटेनमेंट, इट इज कनेक्शन. थिंक अबाउट रूरल चिल्ड्रन विद लिमिटेड सोशल स्पेसेस, चिल्ड्रन इन अर्बन स्लम्स, queer teens, differently abled students. So for them, online platforms may be the only place where they find support, express themselves, feel understood, and a blanket ban ignores the complex reality of adolescent development. Okay. Third reason is children are never asked what they want. Okay. So in India, there is a chronic habit of making policy for young people without ever speaking to them. Have you asked what they would like? So adults, they make rules for children, but rarely with children. Have you ever asked how young people use social media, what harms them, what protections they want? So policies designed without listening often fail. Okay. Fourth and most importantly, a social media ban will certainly classify the gendered social inequalities that will prevent girls from lower income households, particularly young girls. So this is perhaps the most serious consequence. Data from National Sample Survey shows that only 33.3% women have ever used the internet, compared to 57.1% of men. So, in many families, girls' phone usage is already viewed with suspicion. कि हाँ, ये पहले से ही वो देखा जाता है. और गवर्नमेंट ने अगर बैन कर दिया उस पर से, तो फैमिलीज को एक और एक्सक्यूज मिल जाएगा, टेक फोन्स अवे entirely from young girls. So instead of protecting children, a ban could, reduce girls' access to education, online platform, cut them off from opportunities, and increase gender inequality. Right? So what can be done? See, if not ban, then what should be done instead? So first of all, governments must stop relying only on bans, censorship, takedown notices. Instead, they should regulate the algorithm. Okay? They should regulate the algorithm, control data collection, and enforce duty of care for platforms. So companies should face real financial penalties for harming minors. तो यहाँ पे ये इंपॉर्टेंट है. और जो ये सब जो रूल्स हैं, इट शुड बी एनफोर्स्ड बाय इंडिपेंडेंट एक्सपर्ट्स, नॉट पॉलिटिकल मिनिस्टर्स, नॉट ब्यूरोक्रेसीज लैकिंग टेक्निकल नॉलेज. जो इंडिपेंडेंट एक्सपर्ट्स हैं उनको बोलना चाहिए, उनको उनके थ्रू ये रेगुलेशन एनफोर्स करना चाहिए. एंड इंडिया ऑल्सो urgently need to invest in research, public funded surveys, long term studies on children's digital lives. रिसर्च सिर्फ एक एरिया तक नहीं, बल्कि रिसर्च अक्रॉस जेंडर, कास्ट, क्लास, रीजन. Children must be participants and not just subjects. Okay? And here's a question we rarely ask. If we are worried about harm to children, why should we only focus on social media? Children today also interact with AI chatbots, generative AI tools, AI mental health advice. So, early research shows that heavy AI use can reduce critical thinking, and some AI systems have failed to protect minors. Okay? There are cases जहाँ पे basically AI with AI interaction, it has given self harm encouragement. So, if safety is the concern, regulation must be consistent. Okay. So, a ban, although it feels powerful, it feels immediate, it feels reassuring, but often it is only an illusion of control. तो एक जैसे मीडिया स्कॉलर है, उन्होंने ये भी कहा है कि दैट आई एम नॉट प्रो और एंटी टेक्नोलॉजी, दैट वुड बी लाइक प्रो और एंटी फूड. क्योंकि आज के टाइम पे एवरीवन इज यूजिंग टेक्नोलॉजी. So the real task is harder. Creating a healthy media environment, teaching digital literacy is very important, holding corporations accountable, listening to young people. Okay? क्योंकि जो चिल्ड्रन है उनको प्रोटेक्ट करना है, तो इट रिक्वायर्स एफर्ट, नुआंस, करेज एंड नॉट जस्ट पैंस. Right? So thank you for listening, students. If you found the discussion useful, share it with parents, teachers, and your friends, because protecting children, it starts with understanding. Okay, that will be all for today, students. Bye bye. Keep learning.